This deep dive is powered by Growth Suite. Growth Suite helps you to run smart discount campaigns on your store. You can test it for free on your Shopify store. Just land on the Shopify App Store now and test it for free. All right, welcome to Conversion Bible. Today we are going to do a deep dive into product bundling on Shopify.
Okay.
So, a lot of our listeners are really interested in kind of like the fastest way to get to their goals, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm running a store, what are the things that I can do to get my sales numbers up, get my average order value up without having to, really spend a lot of money on marketing or customer acquisition?
Right.
And this is one of those areas. So product bundling is a very, very powerful way to do that.
Right.
And what's really interesting about it is that it doesn't matter if you're a really small focused boutique with only a few items or you're a really big store with thousands of scooches.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can still implement this strategy. And we're going to look at all the various ways you can do that in just a minute.
Okay, yeah.
So in this deep dive, we're going to explore a few things. First of all, we're going to look at why bundling even works.
Right.
Like, what is it from a business standpoint and from a psychological standpoint that makes this such an effective strategy?
Yeah, and it's interesting how those two kind of intertwine.
Yeah.
Like they really work together. And, I think there will be some aha moments for a lot of listeners as we go through that, sort of the foundational understanding of why this works.
Yeah.
And then after that, we can look at the different types of bundles that are available for Shopify stores. And then we'll look at, okay, how do you actually implement this on the Shopify platform? What are the tools? What are the apps? What are the things that you can use to make this happen?
Right.
And then, once you've implemented, how do you measure it? How do you know it's working? How do you optimize it to make it even better? And then we can kind of like take a peek into the future. What are some of the advanced strategies that we can start thinking about now that are coming down the pipe for bundling?
Yeah, and that is really the mission of this deep dive, is to help you unlock that potential, right?
Yeah.
Because there is a huge potential here. In fact, we've seen statistics that, effective bundling can increase revenue by as much as 30%.
Wow.
And conversion rates by over 15%. And in a recent survey of Shopify merchants, they saw that their average order value increased by between 20 and 25% just by implementing a bundling strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've established why this is important.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it. What is the business case for doing product bundling on Shopify?
Well, as we've, kind of already hinted at, the biggest impact is going to be that increase to your average order value, your AOV. And we've seen data that effective bundling can increase AOV by as much as 20%. So if you can get people to buy more than one item at a time, that's a direct impact to your bottom line, right?
Yeah. And that can have, a pretty huge compounding effect over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another benefit is that it can help you with inventory management. Like, let's say you have some products that aren't, your top sellers.
Right.
You can actually bundle them with more popular items to help move them.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, you don't have to resort to just, deep discounting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a much smarter way to manage your inventory than just having like a clearance sale or something.
Yeah. Now, for the customer, what's in it for them? Why would they choose to buy a bundle over individual items?
Well, first of all, I can just simplify the whole decision-making process. A lot of times when people are online shopping, they get overwhelmed by choices.
Sure.
So if you can present them with a curated selection of items that work well together, it makes it easier for them to make a decision and feel confident about it.
Yeah, like it's been curated for them.
Exactly. And then, there's also the perception of getting better value. When they see that they can get a bundle for a slightly lower price than buying the items individually, even if it's just a small discount, they feel like they're getting a good deal.
Right.
And sometimes bundles can be a way for them to discover new products that they might not have found on their own. Maybe they're buying a bundle and there's one item in there that they haven't tried before.
Right.
And they end up loving it.
Yeah, I think that happens quite often. Okay, so how can you use product bundling to stand out from the competition?
Well, especially in a crowded marketplace like Shopify, you have a lot of stores selling similar products.
Right.
So if you can create unique and compelling bundles that offer something different, it can really help you to differentiate yourself. It gives customers a reason to choose your store over another one.
Okay.
And then, let's talk about cost effectiveness.
Yep.
Because a lot of the ways that we try to grow our businesses are very expensive.
Right.
Like paid advertising, influencer marketing. These things can really eat into your profits.
Yeah.
But bundling, the initial investment is relatively low,
Okay.
but the potential ROI can be very high.
Right. So it's like a lower barrier to entry.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then there's the impact on customer lifetime value.
Yes. And this is something that I think a lot of people overlook.
Okay.
But when you expose your customers to a wider range of your products through bundles, you're increasing the chances that they'll find more things that they like.
Wait.
And that can lead to them becoming repeat customers and spending more money with you over time.
Okay. So what kind of return on investment are we looking at here typically?
Well, it obviously depends on the specific products and how you implement it.
Okay.
But, a typical ROI for a well-executed bundling strategy is going to be somewhere between 15 and 25%.
Wow.
Which is really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty significant return. Okay, so the business case is really strong.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's going on in the mind of the customer now. What is it that's actually driving people to choose these bundles? We've touched on it a little bit, but let's get into the psychology.
Right. So the biggest driver is what we call value perception. It's how people perceive the value of something.
Right.
And when you present them with a bundle that's priced lower than the total cost of buying the individual items separately, even if it's a small discount, like 10% off, it triggers that, feeling of like, ooh, I'm getting a good deal here.
Yeah.
And that can be really powerful in influencing their decision.
Right. And I think it goes beyond just the price.
Yeah.
Like there's something about a bundle that feels like it's been put together, specifically for you or with you in mind.
Absolutely. And it kind of tacks into this other principle, which is what we call decision paralysis, where people get overwhelmed with too many choices. So when you offer a bundle, you're kind of like curating it for them. You're saying, hey, these things go well together. You don't have to worry about making all these different choices.
Yeah.
Just get this bundle and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And that can really help people feel more comfortable with their purchase.
Right. And I think we've all been there. You go to a website and there's just so many choices.
Yeah.
You're like, ugh, I can't even decide. I'll just leave.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else? What other psychological factors are at play here?
Well, another interesting one is what we call loss aversion. And that's the idea that people are more motivated by the fear of losing something than they are by the potential to gain something.
Okay.
So when they see a bundle and it's presented as, you'll save this much money if you buy this bundle, they're focused on what they'll lose if they don't buy it, as opposed to what they'll gain if they do.
Right.
And that can be a very powerful motivator.
So it's framing it in terms of, what they're missing out on.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then there's also the idea of completeness. Like we humans, we like things to be complete. We like sets. We like to have all the pieces.
Yeah.
So when we see a bundle that offers, a complete solution, whether it's a set of skincare products or a collection of tools, it appeals to that desire for completeness.
Right.
And it's also interesting to look at how different demographics respond to bundling.
Okay.
So younger shoppers, like the 18 to 24-year-olds, they tend to be very receptive to bundles that feature new or trending products.
Okay.
Whereas parents, they're often looking for convenience and time-saving solutions. So bundles that make their lives easier, like, a baby care bundle or a meal prep bundle, those can be very appealing.
Right.
And then, there are the value-conscious shoppers who are always looking for a good deal.
Right.
And those are the ones who are going to be most drawn to bundles that offer a clear savings.
Okay.
So understanding those psychological triggers is really key to creating effective bundles that will resonate with your target audience.
Yeah. So we've talked about why bundling works, but let's get into the actual types of bundles that you can create for your Shopify store.
Right. So the first one is what we call a complementary product bundle. And these are, the bundles where you're putting together items that naturally go together.
Yeah.
Like, a camera with a lens and a memory card, or a laptop with a mouse and a carrying case. These things just make sense to buy together, right?
Right.
And they provide a more complete experience for the customer.
Okay. What else?
Okay. Then we have curated gift bundles.
Okay.
And these are especially popular around holidays or special occasions. And this is where you're putting together a collection of items that would make a great gift for a specific type of person or for a particular interest. So you could have like a self-care package, a new mom essentials kit, a coffee lovers collection, things like that.
Right.
And these are great because they take the guesswork out of gift giving. Right.
And they can also be a way to introduce customers to new products that they might not have thought of buying on their own.
Right. Okay, so those are like kind of pre-selected curated bundles. What if I want to give my customers more control?
Right. So there's also something called mix and match customizable bundles. And this is where you let the customer create their own bundle.
Okay.
So you might say, choose any 3 t-shirts for $50. Or build your own skincare routine by picking a cleanser, a toner, and a moisturizer.
Okay.
And this gives them that flexibility and control over their purchase, but they're still getting the value of a bundle.
Right.
Then we have same product multi-packs, and these are the simplest bundles where you're just selling multiple units of the same product at a discount.
Okay.
So you might have a 3-pack of t-shirts or a 6-month supply of vitamins.
Okay.
And these work well for consumables or items that people buy regularly.
Right.
And then, of course, we have the classic BOGO offers.
Right.
So buy one, get one free, or buy one, get one 50% off.
Those are technically a type of bundle,
Yeah.
and they're really effective for attracting new customers or clearing out inventory.
Okay. So we've talked about a lot of different types of bundles.
Right.
Are there any other kind of like more creative or unique approaches?
Yeah, so one interesting one is exclusive limited edition bundles. And this is where you offer a bundle that includes a unique item that you can't buy individually.
Okay.
So, for example, you might have a clothing bundle that includes a special edition t-shirt that's only available as part of that bundle.
Right.
And that can create a sense of urgency and exclusivity, which can really drive sales.
Okay.
And then another one is cross-category bundles. And this is where you're combining products from different categories to encourage product discovery.
All right.
So you might have a bundle that includes a kitchen gadget and a home decor item, or a beauty product and a fashion accessory.
Right.
And this can be a great way to expose your customers to a wider range of your products and get them to try new things.
Okay. So we've got all these different types of bundles. How do we choose the right one for our specific business goals?
Right. Yeah. So that's the next step. It's thinking strategically about, okay, what are we trying to achieve with our bundling strategy?
Right.
So if your goal is to clear out excess inventory, then you might want to bundle those slow-moving items with your best sellers to help move them.
Okay.
If you're trying to introduce a new product, you might want to bundle it with an established favorite to reduce the perceived risk for the customer.
Okay.
If you're looking to expand into a new category, you might want to create cross-category bundles to get people to try those new products.
Okay.
And then, you can also tailor your bundling strategy to different stages of the customer life cycle.
Right.
So for new customers, you might want to offer entry-level bundles with a lower price point to make it easier for them to try your products.
Okay.
For loyal customers, you might want to offer premium bundles with exclusive items or early access to new bundles as a way to reward them.
Right.
And then, there are seasonal strategies. You might want to create limited time bundles for holidays or special events.
Yay.
And then there's margin optimization, which is all about balancing the discounts you're offering with the profitability of your bundles.
Right.
And then finally, there's brand positioning, which is about using bundles to elevate your brand perception and create a more premium experience for your customers.
Okay. So we've talked about the strategy. We've talked about the types of bundles. Let's talk about the actual technical implementation on Shopify now. How do we make this happen?
Right. So Shopify does have some built-in features for basic bundling.
Okay.
You can create a new product listing that represents the bundle and then lists the individual items in the description.
Okay.
But this is a very manual process, and it's not very efficient for managing inventory, especially if you're creating a lot of different bundles.
Right. So it's not really a long-term solution.
No, not really. So for most merchants, the better option is to use a third-party bundling app. And there are a lot of great ones out there that offer a lot of flexibility and functionality.
Right. So what are some of the key things that we should be looking for in a bundling app?
So the first thing is inventory synchronization.
Okay.
You want an app that can automatically adjust the inventory levels of the individual products in a bundle when that bundle is sold.
Right.
So you don't end up overselling something.
Right. Yeah.
Then you want pricing flexibility. You want to be able to offer different types of discounts, like percentage discounts, fixed dollar amounts, or even set a fixed price for the whole bundle.
Okay.
And then you want display options. How is the bundle going to be presented on your product page? Is it going to be in a pop-up? Is it going to be in a separate tab?
Right.
You want to make sure it's visually appealing and easy for customers to understand.
Right.
And then analytics are important.
Sure.
You want to be able to track the performance of your bundles and see what's working and what's not. And then finally, you want to make sure the app is compatible with your theme and any other apps that you're using.
Right.
You don't want to install an app and then have it break something else on your site.
Okay.
So yeah, those are some of the key things to look for.
Okay. Now, are there any specific apps that you recommend?
Yeah, so there are a few that are really popular and well regarded in the Shopify community.
Okay.
One is Boldy Bundles. It's very feature rich and offers a lot of customization options.
Okay.
Another one is Bundle Builder. It's really good for creating those mix and match bundles.
Okay.
Fast Bundle is another option. It's very simple and easy to use, and it focuses on speed.
Okay.
And then there's Bundled, which is a good option for volume discounts and tiered pricing structures.
Okay. So once we've chosen an app and we've installed it, how long does it typically take to get our first bundles up and running?
Well, it depends on a few factors, but you can probably expect it to take somewhere between 1 and 3 days. That includes the time to install and configure the app, plan your bundling strategy, create your first bundles, and then test everything to make sure it's working properly.
Right.
And one thing to keep in mind, a lot of Shopify traffic comes from mobile devices these days.
Right.
So you need to make sure that your bundles are displaying properly on mobile, they're easy to understand, and the checkout process is smooth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got our bundles set up. They're looking good. Now, how do we make sure that people actually see them? How do we showcase them effectively?
Right. So your product pages are a really important place to showcase your bundles.
Okay.
You can use bundle widgets, pop-ups, tabs, anything that you can think of to draw attention to the bundles and make them easy for customers to find.
Right.
And then your collection pages are another good place.
Okay.
You can use badges or labels to identify the bundles, create featured sections, or use visual cues to make them stand out.
Right.
And then your homepage is obviously prime real estate. So you might want to use banners or featured product carousels to showcase your most popular bundles.
Okay.
And then don't forget about the shopping cart page.
Right.
You can use complete the look bundles, upgrade offers, or even limited time offers to entice customers to add more items to their cart.
Right. And we could also cross-promote on other channels, right?
Absolutely. Use email marketing, social media, paid advertising, anything that you can think of to get the word out about your bundles.
Okay. So visually speaking, what are some of the best practices for presenting bundles effectively?
Well, high-quality images are essential.
Sure.
You want to show all of the items that are included in the bundle, and if possible, use lifestyle photos to show the products being used together in a real-world setting.
Okay.
And then a consistent visual language is important. Use the same colors, fonts, and layouts for all of your bundle presentations to make them easy to recognize.
Right.
And then make sure you're clearly displaying the savings. Show the original price and the discounted bundle price so that people can see the value right away.
Right, yeah. Okay, so now that we've launched our bundles, how do we know if they're actually working? How do we measure their performance?
Right, so you want to be tracking a few key metrics.
Okay.
Your bundle conversion rate, which is the percentage of times a bundle, is viewed that it leads to a sale.
Okay.
Your average order value, which is the average amount that customers spend per order.
Right.
Your bundle revenue percentage, which is the percentage of your total revenue that's coming from bundles.
Okay.
And then your inventory velocity. Are you actually moving those slower moving products that you bundled with your best sellers?
Right, yeah.
And then finally, your profit margin. You want to make sure that you're still making a profit on your bundles, even after the discounts.
Right, yeah. Okay. So we're tracking all of this, and let's say we see some areas where we could improve. How do we optimize our bundles?
Well, A/B testing is really helpful for that. You can test different product combinations, different discount levels, different presentations, different placements, different names, different descriptions, and see what works best.
Right.
And then customer feedback is also really important.
Sure.
So you can use post-purchase surveys, customer service interactions, social media monitoring, review analysis to gather feedback from your customers and see what they think of your bundles.
Right, yeah.
And then competitive monitoring is always a good idea. See what your competitors are doing, see what kind of bundles they're offering, see what their pricing is like, and see if there's anything that you can learn from them.
Yeah.
And then keep in mind that seasonal variations can affect your bundle performance.
Right.
So you might need to adjust your bundles based on the time of year and the buying habits of your customers.
Right.
And then finally, you want to pay attention to attribution.
Right.
Which marketing channels are driving the most bundle sales? Are first-time customers or repeat customers more likely to buy bundles? That kind of information can help you to fine-tune your marketing efforts.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the theory and the strategy behind product bundling, but Let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. Let's look at some case studies of successful bundling implementations.
Right. So, one example is a small business called Little Dreamers. They sell baby bedding and sleep accessories.
Okay.
And they created a bundle called the Sleep Essentials Bundle, which included their best-selling crib sheets, a wearable sleep sack, and a swaddle blanket.
Okay.
And this bundle generated over $300,000 in revenue for them in just 3 months.
Wow.
It increased their average order value by 35%, and it became their top-selling product.
That's amazing. So what do you think was the key to their success?
Well, they identified a specific pain point for their target audience, which is new parents who are often overwhelmed with trying to figure out what they need to get their baby to sleep.
Right.
And they offered a complete solution that made it easy for them to buy everything they needed in one bundle.
Right.
So they were solving a problem for their customers and making their lives easier.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what about a larger company? Have you seen any examples of successful bundling implementations at the enterprise level?
Yeah, so there's a large electronics retailer that implemented AI-driven personalized bundle recommendations.
Okay.
So their system would analyze each customer's browsing history and purchase data to recommend bundles that were tailored to their individual needs and interests.
Wow.
And this led to a 22% increase in cart additions, a 15% higher conversion rate, and $2.3 million in additional revenue in the first year.
Wow, that's incredible. So personalization really is key.
Yeah, definitely. And then another example is a beauty brand that created limited time holiday bundles with special packaging.
Okay.
And these bundles accounted for 43% of their total Black Friday, Cyber Monday revenue.
Wow.
And they saw a 400% return on their investment in the special packaging.
Wow.
So creating that sense of urgency and making the bundles feel special really paid off for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've talked about a lot of success stories, but what about learning from failures? Are there any common mistakes that we should be aware of when we're creating our bundles?
Yeah, so one common mistake is bundling unwanted items.
Okay.
Just trying to get rid of your slow-moving stock by bundling it with your best sellers.
Right.
But customers can see right through that, and it can actually hurt your brand image.
Right.
Another mistake is making your bundles too complex.
Go.
If you have too many items in a bundle, it can be overwhelming for customers, and they might not understand the value.
Right.
And then another mistake is discounting your bundles too heavily.
Okay.
You might see a lot of sales, but you're also eating into your profit margin.
Right.
So it's all about finding that balance between offering a good deal and making sure that you're still making money.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say we've mastered the basics of bundling.
Right.
What are some advanced strategies that we can explore to take our bundling to the next level?
Well, one really interesting area is personalized bundle recommendations.
Okay.
So this is where you're using data about your customers' past purchases and browsing behavior to recommend bundles that are tailored to their individual needs.
Right.
And you can do this using AI-powered recommendation engines, which are becoming more and more sophisticated.
Right.
And then another area is dynamic
Understand.
bundling. And this is where you're using AI to optimize your bundles in real time based on factors like conversion rates, inventory levels, and predicted demand.
Wow.
So the AI is constantly learning and adjusting the bundles to maximize sales and profitability.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And then you can also experiment with limited time bundling events.
Okay.
Create a sense of urgency and exclusivity by offering bundles for a limited time only.
Right.
You could have a bundle week where you offer new bundles every day, or flash sales on bundles.
Okay.
And then subscription-based bundling is another interesting area.
Right.
Offer customers a discount or other benefits for subscribing to receive regular deliveries of a curated bundle.
Right.
And then loyalty program integration.
Okay.
Offer exclusive bundles for loyalty program members, give them bonus points for buying bundles, or let them redeem their points for bundles.
Right.
And then influencer collaborations.
Okay.
Partner with influencers to create co-branded bundles or limited edition bundles that they promote to their followers.
Right.
And then finally, storytelling and thematic bundling.
Okay.
Create bundles that tell a story or have a theme that resonates with your customers.
Right. Okay, so what does the future hold for product bundling? What are some of the trends that we should be aware of?
Well, AI and machine learning are going to continue to play a big role.
Right.
We're going to see more predictive bundling, more real-time optimization, and even sentiment analysis.
Wow.
Voice commerce is also going to be a factor. We'll see voice-optimized bundle descriptions and recommendations, and maybe even voice-exclusive bundle offers. Augmented reality could also be used to enhance the bundling experience.
Okay.
Let customers virtually try on clothes or see how furniture would look in their home before they buy it.
Right.
And then sustainability is going to continue to be important.
Sure.
So we'll see more bundles that are focused on eco-friendly products, packaging, and shipping.
Okay.
And then cross-border bundling is going to become more common as global e-commerce grows.
Right.
So we'll need to think about cultural differences and language barriers when we're creating bundles for international markets.
Right.
And then omni-channel consistency is going to be more important than ever.
Right.
Making sure that your bundles are available across all of your sales channels, whether it's online, in-store, or social media.
Right.
And then mobile-first design.
Right.
Making sure that your bundles look good and are easy to buy on mobile devices.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground today. Let's bring it all together and give our listeners some key takeaways. So product bundling is a powerful strategy that can increase your average order value, improve your inventory management, enhance the customer experience, and differentiate your store from the competition.
Right.
But the key is to do it strategically.
Yes.
You need to choose the right types of bundles for your business goals, and you need to make sure that your bundles offer genuine value to your customers.
Absolutely.
So think about what problems your customers are facing.